Welcome to another edition of the #LinksLives Natters podcast. Let's welcome today's guests. Well, today's guests are Dr. Rory Waterman and Dr. Anna Mill. Hope I say that right, Anna. How do we say your surname?
Anna Milon. It's like Milton without the T. We've lost
Milon.
the T somewhere in the depths of history.
Yes, because we wanted to make sure we get that right to start with and stuff like that. How are you both today?
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. Just really looking forward to this.
Absolutely, what Anna said.
So, Lincolnshire folklore. What's the inspiration for this project, and how do you get started on something like this?
I mean, I should probably start because it's sort of conceived of the project. It started. I'm from Lincolnshire. I grew up in Nocton and Metheringham, about 8 miles sort of south of Lincoln, and I've always been pretty fast.
Not too far away from Lincoln.
No, not far away from Lincoln at all, but far enough away for it to feel definitely rural. It's getting a bit more. The villages are building up a bit round there now compared to what they were when I was a kid.
Yes,
but yeah, it's still pretty rural.
They are.
Yeah, they are, but it's still very rural. So I grew up, I grew up about a mile, just under a mile from Nocton, in a little lodge house with my grandma and my mum and my aunt, and I was always very keen on sort of going and discovering places on my bike as a kid and all that sort of thing. And my love of my home county hasn't gone away. It's kind of developed a lot since I left it to go to university, and haven't actually lived in Lincolnshire since. I now live in Nottingham, so not very far away, which is great, but yeah, not very far away. And I'm a poet, and about 2.5 years ago, I decided to rewrite some Lincolnshire folktales. Always liked those. I really liked the books, like Adrian Gray's book. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was a fun book of Lincolnshire tales, and Maureen James's Lincolnshire folktales book, and Susanna O'Neill's book Folklore in Lincolnshire, which came out about 10 or 11 years ago. I was looking through these, and I decided I was going to rewrite some Lincolnshire folktales into ballads and kind of modernize them, set them in the modern world, get away from the bucolic world none of us really lives in anymore, set them in the modern world, make them a bit kind of bawdy, and put my friends in them. So that's what I did.
What have they said to that, Rory, with putting your friends in them? What have your friends said? Or do they even know?
Oh, they know. And I think they're pretty delighted, to be honest. I mean, I hope so. I also don't care, so it's fine. They can get me back whenever they like. But so that was where the idea for the project originally came from. I'd done that, and then I thought, what else can I do with these tales? They're brilliant, and there are loads of them, and I know quite a few, but there's a lot more I could know. I teach English and creative writing, so I'd always been tempted to come at it from that angle. But I like researching lots of different things and doing something new, and I thought this would be something really exciting to explore. I can make a difference. A lot of people don't know about a lot of these folktales at all. Things that are associated with folktales in their own villages and stuff like that. They don't really know about them, and why would they these days? But they always would have done in the past. So I thought, what can I do about that? So that's where the project originated. And then I, as part of the project bid, which was with the Arts and Humanities Research Council, they funded it. Which is
big plug there.
Big plug. No, well, they're brilliant. So, well, they're brilliant as far as I'm concerned, because they funded this project. But it's an 18-month project, and a research fellow. I could have a research fellow as part of it on a full-time contract for a year. So then I looked for one, and Anna applied for it, thankfully, because she's absolutely phenomenally gifted and brilliant. So that's me. Now you,
yeah.
Anna.
Thanks so much for that endorsement. So Rory advertised the Lincolnshire Folktales Origins, Legacies, Connections and Futures project, and I was just coming to the end of my doctoral studies. I was kind of waiting for my thesis to be approved, and I grew up in London and have since moved out into the home counties. I live kind of between Buckinghamshire and Hampshire at the moment. And although I've always been interested in folklore, and it's been an integral part of my PhD research, I haven't heard about anything about Lincolnshire folklore pretty much, or if I heard the legends, I wasn't aware that they came from Lincolnshire. So this immediately piqued my interest, and Rory's call to bring the folktales into the 21st century, into the present day, to tie them in with contemporary concerns was something that just appealed to me immediately. So I did some digging. And Rory's absolutely right, not just within the county, but outside it. You'll find, reams and reams of ghost stories and folktales on pretty much any county in England. And of course, Ireland and Scotland and Wales have their own incredibly vibrant folk traditions. But Lincolnshire doesn't make an appearance as a habit. Like, I've checked so many bookstores and there just isn't anything. So I am
It always
looking
gets
forward.
overlooked, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Lincolnshire always gets overlooked. And in a way, I have a bit of a Millwall fan, no one likes us, we don't care attitude about that. And I don't mind.
I'm not even going there on that one, Rory.
but it does seem odd. It's such a beautiful, varied county. Okay, it doesn't have giant mountains and huge cliffs and a huge mega city or any of that sort of stuff, but it's a beautiful, largely unspoiled county full of interesting, really interesting people and really friendly people as well. And it gets overlooked. It gets overlooked in every way I can think of, really. So that is
and I think that's why I wanted to start the podcast, really, Rory, because there's so much diversity. There's so many things going on in this county. So much richness, if I can choose to use that word, in this county.
And people just think it's flat as well, don't they? And John Betjeman once said that he'd like Lincolnshire to have its own flag and for passports to be needed to get in. And of course now Lincolnshire, like every county, I guess, has its own flag, but it's really been embraced, and you can kind of see, maybe not the passports bit, but I think I think there's a real pride in the county, even though most people outside of it don't seem to understand it all that well. And modernising the tales was also it's not so much modernising the tales; it's seeing how they're relevant to life now. But also a lot of traditions, a lot of things exist in children's games and children's lore and those sorts of things, or just memorates. People have this experience and tell people about it, and then ultimately it gets forgotten or that sort of thing. But a lot of folktale books will just ignore Lincoln. A lot of books on folklore in England even will just the Lincolnshire won't even get a mention. It's weird.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people sort of know sort of Lincoln Cathedral because of the imp, don't they? That seems to be the main one that people know.
Yeah, that's really, and that's a marketing thing as well, because I'm not sure how. I guess it was recognised, quite widely recognised before, but it was really not until the 19th century that that the imp became famous in a bigger way, because of James Ussher and Son patenting the imp for use on jewelry, which kind of I guess had a big part to play in encouraging interest in that little bit of stonework, that beautiful little bit of stonework at the end of Lincoln Cathedral above the altar. But probably the only one that is quite widely known. Yeah.
When you've been doing your research, you both come across some interesting stories and gone, I really like that story. And, and it's piqued, like Anna said, it's piqued your interest to go and think, I need to research a bit more about this one, because this is a really interesting story, and what's your favourite?
Oh, gosh. It's going to be incredibly difficult to choose, because my first love was absolutely the Dead Moon, or the Buried Moon.
Yeah.
And I've come across it in Philip Pullman's second fantasy trilogy that is not yet a trilogy, in the book called The Secret Commonwealth, where, again, testament to how often Lincolnshire is overlooked. He sets the story in the Fens, undefined, and doesn't actually mention it's a Lincolnshire folktale. He quotes Catherine Briggs, who is a famous folklorist and folktale collector, but without kind of citing Briggs' own sources that lie within the county. So the story goes that the moon is interested in what kind of critters and bogles live in the cars in the flooded landscape, and she goes down to investigate, but is captured and held prisoner. And so without her protective light, the countryside descends into havoc, and everyone, all of the people are miserable because all of the bogles and the scary things are out rampaging at night. Until finally the local community goes to a wise woman, and she instructs them to go into the cars, to go into this kind of waterlogged landscape to find the moon under a stone and to free her. But they have to stay silent, carrying pebbles in their mouths to prevent them from alerting the local supernatural life. And they go, and they manage to free the moon. And since then, the moon shines over Lincolnshire brighter than anywhere else. So that's kind of my favorite story that I really want to.
It's a lovely one, and Balfour, Marie Balfour collected that. She collected 10, well, several others as well, but 10 legends, or she called them legends, but folktales. She lived in Redbourne, which I'm going to today, in the northern half of Lincolnshire, anyway. And this was in late 1880s, and she collected stories from local people. And that was one of them. And yeah, the moon ends up shining brightest on the cars, but it reflects this kind of waterlogged landscape that by then no longer existed. This dangerous landscape in the valley, the shallow valley of the Ancon River, and which had now been drained and traversed by big dikes, and was highly arable farmland for the most part.
Yeah, this is the thing, Rory, the lady you just mentioned. These stories don't get told. So this is why we need projects like yours, isn't it? So these stories do get told.
I sometimes wonder what would it have been like if there had been many other Balfours, because Redbourne's it's a lovely village, but it's not special. It's no more special than pretty much any other. So what if there'd been someone in those villages collecting and writing down these tales, and that tale, loads of these could have just been lost. It has some analogues, but a lot of the tales she collected are really not. They don't have any other sources. Some people think she just made them all up herself. She was a sort of burgeoning novelist. It's possible, and we'll never really know. But another thing about that,
so she may have, yeah.
It's possible, or at least that she played fast and loose a bit. And another interesting, she goes on about this a lot. She talks about this a lot in her prefaces, that she's very rude about the people, actually. She doesn't mean to be, but it's like she's introducing us to animals in their natural environment, It's just very Victorian, I think.
She calls the cars an ag-infested landscape, which, considering that it's been drained for quite a while before she kind of went there, is quite an interesting choice.
Yes, but the thing is, so yeah, that's true. Although, so one of those tales, Tiddy Mun, which again, like the dead moon, as she calls it, the buried moon is, as Anna said, it's more commonly called the buried, but the buried moon does make more sense because the moon ain't dead, But another one, Tiddy Mun, is about a little, I guess, boggart, but very small but old-looking man who has a cry like a peewit, and people make offerings when the water gets too close to their houses. They make offerings, or they come out and they ask. No, first they come out and they ask for his help. They recite a poem and ask for his help. But eventually they stop doing this. They stop paying him enough attention, so he leaves them alone. And then they have a meeting with the wise woman who tells them that what they need to do is they need to return to that tradition and make offerings. So they do, but there's a context here, because loads of people were, and she does make a thing of this, and you think, well, maybe it wasn't true, but it was. People were, for a lot of the 19th century, they were basically off their face on opium, right? It was easy to make things like poppy head tea from just poppies that grew around and were in cottage gardens and stuff like that. Then you could buy it. It was very, very cheap. It was marketed especially at women, in a pretty sexist way, to cure them of hysteria and so forth. So it was prescribed.
Wow.
Also to kids, you could get things called, I might get the name wrong.
And this all happened in gardening. All happens in
This was
gardens
all
in
in the 19th
Lincolnshire.
century. This was all in the 19th century. So you could buy, you could pick the poppies and make the tea and so on. But from in the 19th century, for a lot of the 19th century, you could buy things like I think it was called Mrs. Wilson's teething syrup or something, soothing syrup, and it was to soothe babies, and it soothed them all right because it was chock full of opium, alcohol, and cocaine. So yeah, it worked. And then slowly this the government, like most medical scandals, that are profitable, because it was extremely profitable. It took a long time for it to be taken as seriously as it could, and eventually it was outlawed. But it wasn't actually outlawed until 1920, which was long after 30 years or so after Balfour was there collecting the tales. And it's quite likely that a lot of the labourers in the mid 19th century at least were, it helped you get through the day, didn't it? So you got aches and pains, but also people had malaria, the ague, which was made worse initially by the draining. So the draining of the fens left standing pools of water, rotting vegetation, an absence of predators for mosquito larvae and stuff like that. So incidences of the ague went up. People would take opium to help them get over that. And then if they tried to wean themselves off opium, it had the same sort of side effects as the ague itself. So it, they'd get achy, shaky limbs and stuff, and then they'd go back on the opium. So this might have inspired some of the tellers. This might have had an effect on.
Yeah, it's all these little gems, Rory, isn't it, that we don't know about. It's, this is why, like I say, this is so important, because I didn't know any of that, actually. You've just told me. And, I think it'd be interesting, for the listeners to hear all this, because this is why you guys need to do it, because it is now starting to pique my interest and thinking, I need to go and have a look at this afterwards, and that's where, my next question is sort of like, how can people get involved in the project and stuff? Because one of the things I know you guys promote quite heavily is the interactive map.
I mean, I'll start with a few things, because I'd like to make a nod to our partners on the project as well, and stakeholders. So we're working with several organisations, and one of them is Five Leaves Books, Five Leaves Publications, who will publish an anthology that Anna and I are editing, and there's an open call out at the moment, so people can submit to that. And we've selected a number of other contributors as well, and they'll be rewriting or modernising or altering or using as an intertext folktales. Then we're working with the University of Lincoln. We'll have an exhibition there and an event for the anthology. Will be
Heritage Lincolnshire is a big one.
Of course, I was trying to think of the other smaller partner. My mind's gone. But Heritage Lincolnshire, which is a big one. They're a stakeholder in the project, and they will be running doing a series of events, 3 places, so Bourne, Lincoln, and Grimsby, and those events people can now book them, and they're free public events, and they'll have musicians and storytellers engaging with Lincolnshire folklore. But in the daytime there will be a workshop, so anyone can get involved and work with the storyteller on understanding folktales and writing their own, and even performing their own. So that's a lot of fun. And then Adverse Camber, who are doing workshops, week-long workshops in schools across the county, rural primary schools, 3 of them, and then also a summer school.
And will all those events be on your website?
Yeah, they're all on the website
and on your platform.
Yeah, if you go to our website, so LincolnshireFolktales.com. Do you want to say something about the map and the?
Absolutely. So we are across all major social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But the best place to find us is the project website, LincolnshireFolktales.com. You will be able to see the folktale map there, which is an interactive map that has all of these locations that you can visit in the county and little stories associated with them. It also has expanded versions of all of the tales. and information about our events and how to book them. And also, if you would like to share your own story, or a piece of folklore, or you've had an experience seeing someone like the Metheringham lass, this phantom hitchhiker figure, we've got a contact page, and you're very, very welcome to get in touch there. So yeah, that's it from me.
Please do,
yeah, back to you, Rory.
And check out the map, because it's loads of fun. Check out the Folktales
Yeah,
map.
the map is great, isn't it? Because I was looking at the map, when
You've
I've
had a
been doing
good
my
play with
research
it,
on you
haven't
guys.
Shelley?
I've been looking.
You've had a good play.
I have. I have had a good look, and I'm going, wow, I didn't know that was there, and I didn't know this was there. And it's these little gems, like I keep saying, I don't know how many times I've said little gem, but it's these little gems that, need to be preserved. They need to be out there and things. But I thoroughly recommend go and have a look at this interactive map. And if you're feeling brave enough, do write a guest blog as well, so that can be added to the website. One of my ladies who listens, and I'm going to give her a big shout out, is Serena Twibell from Twibell Arts, and she's very heavily into folklore. And she's asked me to ask you, okay, I have to read this question, so if it sounds scripted, I apologize.
I listened to your podcast with her. And it was very good. So.
With Serena. Yeah. She's one of my great supporters. So the question we have from Serena is, was folklore passed down by spoken word, or was it written?
Yeah, very good question. And the obvious truth is initially spoken word, and primarily spoken word. And of course, written language is just a reflection of spoken language. Language is spoken. So yeah, that is of primary importance. It's many excellent writers have reinterpreted folk tales or done their own versions, and many great folklorists have written down accounts with real fidelity to what they heard. So it can be a written medium too, but yeah, it's primarily a spoken thing. Of course it is, and if you want to experience a folktale properly, you want to see it performed ideally as well, I think. And as a writer, I'm boxing myself into a corner here, but it can be a late lamp thing that you look at as well. Of course it can, but we want it to be alive, and it should be alive, and performance is hugely important. And the events will obviously be centered around that in song and in storytelling.
Yeah, to very quickly add to that, I feel that I absolutely agree with Rory that historically folklore had this very powerful oral presence, but folklore is a kind of feature of human culture that is still present and still evolving. We are still creating folktales today, and with the advent of internet and communication that is predominantly text-based, I wonder if that's shifting. I wonder if now people are using messaging over internet in the way that they would use speech in the past, and whether as time goes on we'll be seeing a shift from orally told folktales to written ones.
I think that's a really good point. Or the emoji folktale.
The emoji folktale.
I'm up for that.
I hope that answered your question. That would be funny, wouldn't it? I hope that answered your question, Serena. If I can just get you guys to recap where we can find you.
Yes, absolutely. So it's the Lincolnshire Folktales project.com, our WordPress website. We are Lincolnshire Folktales. Folktales are all one word on both Facebook and Instagram, and we are at linksfolk on Twitter. Yeah,
but Lincolnshire Folktales project.com, the website, that's where you'll find everything and links to everything else as well. So if that's your first port of call, you'll find us. And like I said, if you look on the map and you live in a village and you know about a folktale there, or you know about a folktale somewhere else,
please get in touch.
It's not on the map. Get in touch. Tell us. We don't mind. We want that. We love that.
Well, that brings us nicely just to the end of the podcast. And all that's left to say is thank you very much to Dr. Rory Waterman. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Shelley. And thanks for everyone who's listened and made it all this way to the end. And please check out our website, lincolnshirefolktales.project.com.
And also Dr. Anna Milon, thank you very much for joining me today as well.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Shelley. And yes, absolutely. Check out our interactive map on the website, check out our social media, and we really hope that you might be inspired to seek out your local folk tales after listening to this episode as well.
And thank you, Shelley. And I really enjoy your podcast as well. I've got to say,
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed listening to
very
them.
much for the big up there, and I just want to say thank you very much for nattering with us today. All of the links for the project will be listed on our social media platforms. Once again, thank you very much to our guests today.
This Links Lives Natters podcast is brought to you in association with A Guilty Secret, the brilliant new psychological thriller from best-selling Lincolnshire author Philippa East, creator of Little White Lies, Safe and Sound, and I'll Never Tell. It was only meant to be a game. At exclusive boarding school St Michael's, Carrie and her friends are used to getting away with anything, until one night their recklessness goes dangerously too far. They swore to keep what happened a secret. They swore to protect one another. But 16 years on, someone is about to break that promise, because you can't keep a guilty secret forever. Gripping and twisty, A Guilty Secret releases on the 18th of January 2024 and is available to pre-order via Amazon, Waterstones, and your favourite independent bookshops now. Don't miss out. Discover Philippa East's brilliant psychological thrillers today.
Faulty boiler leaving you brainless. Radiator making you feel cold and lifeless. Leaky tap making you feel like a... Then call J&S Plumbing and Heating. Your local, your friendly, reliable plumbing and heating engineer. We offer comprehensive solutions for all your plumbing, gas and heating issues. We are here to bring you and your plumbing back to life. So call J&S Plumbing and Heating when you're feeling a little grave. Hello?
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. My thanks go to Dr. Rory Waterman and Dr. Anna Milon from Nottingham Trent University for joining us and nattering. All the details of the Lincolnshire Folktales project will be available on our social media channels. Also, thanks to my technical team for doing all the technical bits. If you enjoy our show, please subscribe to our podcast available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple. And be sure to come back next week for more interesting interviews from the heart of Lincolnshire. Until then, this is Shelley signing off for now, and we'll see you soon.